This is Teen Quest Live, where we create online conversations about youth culture, parenting, and issues facing youth workers in today's world. Our host, Mark Witt, has served as a pastor and youth pastor in multiple churches, and he's the founder and director of Teen Quest, a youth ministry that creates peak experiences for youth groups and teenagers through camping, events, missions, and evangelism. Welcome to Teen Quest Live.
Thank you. I believe mission trips are very important for Christians of all ages. I encourage teenagers to be involved in missions. You see, missionary work has to be funded, and kids can't go without money. There are different philosophies on how to raise money for people who are involved in missions. And today I have several youth pastors to discuss fundraising for mission trips. First of all, Philip Cantrell, Calvary United Methodist Church. Dan Lawrence, First Alliance Church, Silver Springs, Maryland. And by the way, Philip is in, what's the town?
Annapolis, Maryland.
Annapolis, Maryland, that's right. And Jordan Flora at First Baptist Church of Roanoke, Virginia. Guys, welcome to the program today. And just quickly, I want to talk about your church. Jordan, you go to First Baptist in Roanoke. Tell us about that and your youth group.
Well, we've got a youth group of about 200 on roll.
Whoa.
Any Sunday, we'll go back and forth between 80 to 120, depending on who shows up that week. We've got about 35 leaders that are devoted and dedicated in being there each week with our life.
How long have you been there?
I started in November, so we're just about 7 months in.
Okay, just getting started. And then Dan Lawrence, First Alliance Church, Silver Spring. I've known you, Dan, since you were, a little kid in Murraysville. Now you're down there as a youth pastor. Tell us about your church.
Well, Silver Spring, Maryland is a very kind of urban, suburban area. We're just right by the Beltway here outside of Washington, D.C. So that brings its own kind of flair. We're a very international area. We have 28 different countries of origin in our church. So we have a lot of different people from different countries here. We are a smaller church. Our youth group is about 60 teenagers. That's middle school and high school, and we have a group of about 15 that volunteer consistently throughout the week. So, yeah, it's a good-sized group, and God's opened a lot of doors for us to do many different things in the community. So we emphasize having a strong community presence. How
long have you been there?
I've been there 6 years now.
6 years. Awesome. And Philip Cantrell. I've known Philip a number of years. And Annapolis, Maryland. I don't know why I always forget Annapolis, Maryland. I should know that. And tell us about your church and how long have you been there?
Yeah, sure. I'm in my 6th year. If we were to have all the youth come at once, big if, we'd have 50 kids. Typical youth fellowship night, we'll have about 30 or 35 kids. The interesting thing about our church, and our church is over 200 years old, not the actual building, but it's an older church here. And we actually are not what I would call, and we know this, we're not a community church. No one would, in theory, would ever walk to our church. The schools represented are, all over the city of Annapolis. So, and not that that's an excuse, but it just puts us in a unique situation where we are at the mercy of the parents to get the kids here. And when we have fundraisers, they generally come out. But we have been steadily at that number since I've been here, and it's just an older established church that these families come kind of on a cycle, and we're happy for that. But rarely ever, in theory, without the Lord's major blessings, would we ever probably just start blossoming because the community or people just start thriving to come in here.
Well, let's talk about fundraising for a mission trip. First of all, let's explain what really is a mission trip before we get started, because a lot of people have different ideas of what a mission is. I mean, we've got home missions, we've got foreign missions, but I'm assuming you guys do take your students on mission trips. And Dan, tell us what's your definition of a mission trip? What designates that?
I think our definition of a missions trip, to me, comes straight out of the Great Commission. I think anything where we're participating in or aiding the making of disciples. I think at that point you're participating in a missions trip. So that can look very differently. It can actually have teens on the ground partaking in something like a vacation Bible school or street drama or something like that. Or it could be aiding a ministry. You know, if you were to go in and do construction and to help out a group of people that are already doing missions, you yourself may not be sharing the gospel one-on-one with someone, but you're aiding people who are. And so that's what I would kind of look at as a mission trip as.
Now, do you think sometimes, Jordan, that youth groups take mission trips, it's a glorified vacation, and they're really just want to get away and go somewhere and have fun, and it's not really missions?
You know, I think you can have that pretty easily. One of the things that we do is we try to shift perspective with missions, put our students in an opportunity in an environment that they're not used to being in, and shift their perspective to where when they come back they can do many of the same things that they did overseas or wherever we go on a mission trip, do that back here in Roanoke. And so that's our focus, is try to shift that perspective for them.
Now there's two different kind of philosophies in fundraising for missions, in my estimation. One is kids send letters out or go visit people and say, listen, would you support me? Would you pray for me? Would you surround me with help so I can go on this mission trip? Other groups, other organizations or churches say, well, we're going to have fundraisers for our kids. We're going to have bake sales and this kind of thing, and we're going to raise money for you, and you all participate, and we're going to raise the funds, and you go out and do it. Is there a right way or a wrong way, Philip, to do that?
Not a right or wrong way. I think what works for your church, your local individual church, probably is a right way. And one of the interesting things by that is there's 2 or 3 things that have worked year in and year out with us. As Mark knows, we have a unique special thing here because of Indianapolis with the United States Naval Academy. We've had a 30-year long-term fundraiser where parents of that academy pre-purchase cookies that we bake and, for lack of better words, make a profit on it. And we deliver the cookies to the academy. Parents are happy, midshipmen are happy, and we make tons of extra money that would go towards our mission trip. But again, that's right, and that works for us. May not work. And I've had a lot of churches and youth pastors ask, how could they make that work? It would probably could work in other varieties with other people, but there's not a right or wrong way. No.
How do you keep kids from, just kind of falling into, oh well, I didn't really put much into this, or the church is going to do it for me, and I have no responsibility. How do you keep kids from taking on responsibility with that type of thing?
One thing that we do in our ministry that works well is I have, say we're going to a specific trip, we do fundraising based on hours. So any money that is raised goes into a pot, if you would, an overall sum. And a teenager gets hours for participation. So if they show up to a fundraiser that we're doing for 2 hours, they'll get 2 hours logged, okay? If they don't come, they don't get anything. So the thing that happens then is at the end, we take the pot of what we have, divide it by the hours that were accumulated by everyone, and everyone earns an hourly wage. That way you don't have kids saying, I'm not coming to that fundraiser. It's not going to make as much money as this other one. It teaches them the value of participation, being part of it, and putting in hard work. So you really get out of it what you put into it.
Jordan, in your estimation, what has worked for you, for your group?
Well, we've done a couple things. One thing that we did this past spring, we took our group to Cleveland, Ohio to work with some church plants up there. And going into that trip, we really tried to inform the church on what we were going to be doing and who we're going to be working with. And in working with parents, we told them that we didn't want them to pay for the trip. We wanted the students.
Wait a minute, you did not want the parents to pay for the trip?
We didn't want the parents to pay for the trip. We wanted the students to pay for the trip. And so we work with our senior adults. And many of our senior, we have an incredible senior adult ministry at our church. I think that's a good way to put it. Who want to support missions and want to work with us. And So we connected our students who wanted to go on this trip with senior adults who had needs around their house with lawn work or with whatever, so that our students had an opportunity to go and make a connection with a senior adult, but also the work that they did put into helping raise the money. So when they went, it wasn't something that mom and dad paid for, that they're just going and hanging out. It was something that they earned and they did themselves. So.
And why is it important, Dan, that these kids clock those hours or they keep track of this? I mean, why don't we just raise the money and just let them go? Why is it important?
I think there are two, in my opinion, two key elements to any fundraiser. One is obviously financial. You're trying to raise money. But one of the other great dynamics of a fundraising is team building. You know, one of the things that I want our group of teenagers that are going on a trip is to get closer, learn how to work together, deal with conflict and overcome it. And a lot of those things come up at a fundraiser. So I say, hey, not only when you come here are you making money, but you're learning how to work together as a group. And to me, that can be a benefit over just sending out a letter. Sending out a letter, yeah, it's you can get a lot of money from that. And I've seen people pay for entire trips just with support letters. But you do at times miss that opportunity for developing group dynamics. But you also develop ownership, which is, I think, a little bit of what Jordan is talking about. That is just a huge, valuable asset that teams own this trip.
Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Go ahead.
Mark. Well, I would. That's the word I was going to use, was ownership too. And we have, much like Dan said, we try to literally have the kids sign in when they're at fundraisers and literally keep up with their hours, so there would not be any argument. I think the tough thing, though, in that we've had it in written policies and really gone technical with it, is what are you going to do about exceptions? And that's maybe a discussion for another time. But meaning that, you know, two issues. One, and again, I hate to have a policy for everything, but what do you do about the kid that joins the church 2 months before the mission trip and they have not, quote unquote, put the hours in on fundraisers? We also have people on our particular youth council, adults, that just say, hey, you know what? If a kid wants to go on a mission trip, no one should have the right to tell them no because of all these tremendous benefits and advantages. So, one, you're going to have different philosophies, of course, any time you get a group of people together. But the best we can do is try to convince them, as Dan said, that part of the pluses of coming, participating, and, quote, logging your hours in is ownership. And people cannot underestimate that. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's what we've had to try to convince them, that it's about when you go on that trip, if you've been side by side someone washing a car for a fundraiser or baking cookies in our case or whatever it is, hopefully, and in our case, because we do have so many schools represented, you built some ownership. And so when they go on the trip, they realize the person side by side with them has, you know, worked their rear end off just like they have.
What about the element of people praying in the church or friends and family praying? I mean, if it's all on the kids, and I'm not disagreeing with fundraisers. I think it's a great idea. But I'm just wondering if we totally put it on just the kids and just the youth pastor, are we going to get family and friends from across the country or throughout the church really praying for these kids? I mean, you know, if you give something, you're going to pray for these kids. If you don't give, you probably won't pray. Am I right or am I wrong, Jordan? What do you think?
No, I think you're spot on with that. I think with any fundraiser, there's four key things that we need to do every single time. The first is we need to have a team focus, and one of the things that we did at our church right now was a thing called Dare to Risk and Care to Give. And what we did was we had our senior pastor, myself, our children's minister, and also one of our education guys all put in for different dares, if you will. So my dare, I was either going to get spit in the face by a llama or I was going to have to rappel from the top of the worship ceiling or the worship center ceiling. And so just crazy stuff. Our children's minister dyed her hair pink, and what we did was through that we were able to generate some excitement, and people were saying, hey, what's going on? What are we doing this for? Then we got everybody together and had a big barbecue lunch, and we didn't say you had to pay to vote or whatever like that, but rather we just let that be the exciting draw, so that at the luncheon we showed the videos of all the boats and all the events. But people were able to, in a good way, see what we were going to be doing and hear what was going on, and we raised a ton of money with that. And so that was a way we were able to work with the team. It was a whole church focus. All of our staff was bought in with that. It was done with excellence. I think one of the struggles that many of our guys have in trying to put together fundraising, they try to throw something together at the last minute and realize, man, this isn't working. And so we try to really do things with excellence and really try to prepare beforehand. And the third thing is that we need to be informed, or we need to be informers and teaching our church, hey, this is why we're doing this. This is what we're trying to instill in our students. This is why we're going. This is the people we're going to be working with. So that way they really feel ownership, and it's not just, hey, I want your money. It's, hey, you're really a part of this with us, and it's not just us going. And then the last thing, man, you got to keep it spiritual. You got to keep the main thing, and keep the focus on the Great Commission, and keep the focus on Acts 1:8. That this is something that's not just for 1 week, but it's something that we're trying to instill in our students for a lifetime of living on mission.
Well, I'm going to take
Mark,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
One thing that I think is really important, just kind of as Jordan said, is constant communication. I've seen youth ministries that do missions, and it's almost like they're doing it behind the scenes, and all of a sudden it comes up and their teens are leaving for a trip. When we do a missions trip, we announce it a year in advance. Hey, we're doing this trip, it's going to happen, and we keep updating people, once a month or once every other month. Yeah, let people know about it. Give opportunities for people to pray about it. Talk about it in your service 8 months before it's going to happen.
How do you get the adults? How do you get the adults involved? How do you get the senior citizens involved? Besides, maybe the fundraiser is a way to do it. How do you get them involved?
One thing that we've done, you mentioned prayer already, was we made this really great bulletin board that we had in the main lobby of our church with the pictures of each kid that was going on the missions trip. And we asked each kid to come up with 3 prayer requests for them. And then we had 5 blank spaces underneath. We said, we want you as a person to commit to praying for one specific student, not for necessarily the whole group, but for one group. And if you have 10 kids going on a trip and you have 5 people praying specifically for that, that's 50 people in your church that are praying and investing. And we saw great results from that. And do that before the trip, during the trip, and then even after the trip, have those people praying for those individual students.
Philip, how do you get the kids involved? Or the parents involved, I mean?
Spin-off of that is, like we have one particular girl, as Mark knows, next week we're taking her to Somerset. She's going on their Costa Rica trip from there. And so we've done a little bit of just really basic grassroots. I've gone to different groups in the church and told them kind of, pepped it up a little bit and said, we're excited. Here's Rachel. I'm not sure if y'all know Rachel, one of our teens, and y'all pray for her. Just kind of just really basic common sense approach. Everything from, and not really making light of it, but saying, hey, if you'd like to throw a few dollars at her for some spending money, I'm sure she'd appreciate it, and our people are generous for that, aside from the, the overall fee that it's going to cost. But then in general, our church has tried to bridge a gap with communication and little things like putting testimonials in our church newsletter, and telling about what's going on. We've done some official things in the past. We've done everything that might sound a little cheesy, like asking some of the seniors to adopt some of our youth, but the adoption was more like through prayer and cards and letters, and that in general works. I will say one funny thing about that, the seniors that try to communicate to the youth, their form of communication is not what the youths are, and the seniors are disappointed that they don't get a handwritten note back from the kids. Well, that's just not going to happen. Yeah. Those are the things you learn, and you try to express that to the people that are supporting and praying. But in general, Mark, like I said, we just kind of hit it and go around and tell people, like I said, maybe a year in advance, hey, we're going to this place next year, and try to put it in the newsletter. Now, how many people see it and embrace it, that's kind of an individual thing. But we hit the grassroots level.
I'm going to take a break right now, and after the break, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and we'll come right back. I'm going to ask the question, what did not work that you did? You've done some fundraisers, you've done some things. What didn't work? What fell flat in his face? Or maybe you know of a friend of yours that tried some stuff, and the trip fell flat, or the money raising fell flat, whatever. Let's talk about it right after this break. I want you folks listening to join us, Teen Quest, for a Teen Quest mission experience here in Western Pennsylvania. You can make a difference in helping folks and ministering to hundreds of kids and adults in Costa Rica, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, or Somerset, Pennsylvania. If you'd like to have more information on how you can get kids involved in Teen Quest missions, call us right now at 1-800-288-8336 or on the web, teenquest.org. Hey, every student needs to go, I believe, on a mission trip and experience getting their hands dirty for the Lord. Well, I'm speaking today to several of my friends, Jordan Flora, Dan Lawrence, and Philip Cantrell, and we're talking about funding missions. And I want to ask you guys, what didn't work for you? What failed, or what have you seen that's failed in funding mission stuff? Jordan, what do you think? What do you find?
Well, the things really, Mark, that failed for us were the things that we just try to throw together. It's when we don't do things with excellence and just don't do our due diligence and communication or preparation. That's when it falls flat on our face.
Can you give me an example of something that you did?
We had a spaghetti luncheon at a previous church we put together, and it was kind of a last minute deal as a last ditch effort to put together for our mission trip that we were taking to a town in South Carolina, and by throwing it together, it really was. It wasn't a bad experience, but there's so many things we look back on and say, man, I wish we could have, given something to the people that were there. One thing that I found that's been very successful is anytime we ask anybody to give financially, when you give something to them in their hand that they can take with them, whether it's a bookmark with a prayer request or what we're going to be doing each day, that's a huge thing for them to have to remind them to pray, and stuff like that we just, because we didn't prepare beforehand as well as we could have, we missed out on some of those opportunities.
Dan, do the church people get tired of asking for money all the time or funding these projects we do? I mean, they get worn out with that stuff?
I think at times they can. I think that can definitely happen. It depends on the nature of your church. It depends on the ministry. If your youth ministry and your children's ministry and your adult ministry and your senior ministry, they're all asking for funds at the same time, it can feel like it's sucking the life out of you a little bit. But I think if it's done well, and if it's coordinated with your other ministries and say, hey, let's not have two fundraisers back-to-back weekends, let's spread it out. I think it can be done well. Echoing what Jordan said, I think that, what I said earlier, that we let people know a year ahead of time when our mission trip is. We let them know a year ahead of time when every single one of our fundraisers is going to be for the next year. And even, 8 months down the road, we're going to be having a car wash, or we're doing this. And I think when you evaluate what is successful and what are not, this is going to sound really businessy, but you got to look at like your profit margin. Are you spending a lot of money and not getting that much back? Same story with a spaghetti dinner. We did a really nice spaghetti dinner for our church, and we invited people, and we got a lot of stuff. We had salad, and we had the works, dessert, all that stuff. It was nice, but we just asked for donations. At the end of the day, when I minused how much we spent and then brought the donations in, we made like $20 off for like 21 kids. Horrible. It was a wash. It's a wash. Why even do that? So I don't do that stuff anymore because it costs a lot of money to put it on. And so I think any fundraiser where you don't have to spend that much to do it, your profit margin is up, and those are the best ones.
I remember years ago we had a fundraiser. We were selling candy bars. We had one of our Bible clubs, and these kids, they're kind of new Christians, or maybe some of them weren't even Christians. So we gave them the candy to sell. The kids went out and sold the candy bars, kept the money, and we owed the bill. It's like, oh my gracious, we were in the hole over this stupid candy fundraiser. So, but we've had some failings as well. Now, Philip, how much? Obviously, you get the community involved in fundraising for missions because you're selling cookies to the community. How much does the community really know what this money's going for? Do they really know this is going to help send kids to go out and help others, or do they just just buying cookies?
I know that with the Cookie Factory is what it's called. There's 2 or 3 things. For example, it's a year-round thing. Actually, we bake
do it once a month.
We bake cookies once a month, but as far as year-round, like right now, we're doing a lot of publicity to the incoming freshmen, if you will. They're called something else here, but plebes, I think it is, coming into the program and their parents. In that sense, it'll be new to them. But it's national, which is it's good and it's big. We'll send out letters. Right now, it's amazing with the way security is. We can still get away with having the addresses of all these families. One day that might stop, but we send them a old-fashioned letter, let them know. Using media, we have a YouTube video that goes out to all of them.
All right, we're going to turn the corner right now and talk about different ideas of mission fundraising. And I'm going to start with Philip Cantrell. Tell us, Phil, some ideas you have on fundraising for other ideas on fundraising.
I'll just say again that we do a parents' night out where we babysit kids, and it may not. The parents go out for Christmas shopping, and I think the nature that we've learned is the nature of the beast is that these young parents who are going to spend their money for Christmas aren't going to make a big donation to our fundraiser, but it's fun for the kids. The little kids love it. The young parents love it. It's one of the rare fundraisers we do that we don't make a lot of money, but I would hope that somewhere along the line we all would admit that it's not necessarily always about making the big bucks. I certainly wouldn't want to go in the hole, but we do that. It's fun as well.
Dan, what about you? What are some ideas?
I think a sweet spot on a fundraiser is one that you can, serve people, like Philip mentioned, also creating opportunities for teens to work side by side, and then also trying to make a profit. We also do a babysitting night for Christmas shopping, as well as Valentine's Day for a date night so parents can go out. We do car washes, and also a yard sale is something that we do that's really successful. We just ask people in their house, hey, you need to get rid of some stuff, or did you want to take it to Salvation Army? Donate to us. We'll do a yard sale, and what we don't sell, we end up taking to Salvation Army, and we make a huge profit off of that, and kids get some good life skills next to each other, interacting with people from the community. So that works well.
Jordan, what about you? Ideas that you have?
Well, real quickly, one of the things we did was partnered with Kohl's, which is the retail store, and they've got a program called Kohl's Cares where they send out some of their employees to volunteer to help you do whatever event you're doing, whether it's a spaghetti dinner or doing lawn work for people around your church. And what they'll do is they'll pay you a check for $500 and send out volunteers to help you. They deduct it from their taxes. So that's been a huge thing for us because it builds relationships with people in the community. And then it also, it's free money. So
Awesome.
It's a no-brainer.
Jordan, Dan, and Philip, thank you so much for being a part of our program today. And if you're listening right now, I'd like you to email us and let us know of some ideas you have for fundraisers for mission trips. We can fund missions. Your kids can go on missions if they have the funds to do it, and maybe your ideas can be published, and we can let everybody know what's happening and how to make this fundraising stuff work for missions. Let's keep doing mission trips. Let's keep changing lives, and thank you guys for being a part of the program today.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Teen Quest Live with Mark Witt. You know, the discussion is just starting. You can visit our website and leave your comments and thoughts about this topic. Find us online at teenquest.org. That's teenquest.org. And we'll see you next time on Teen Quest Live.